The deck is stacked, the hand has been dealt, so let the games begin. Hi everyone, I'm Tom, and this is Hand of Fate 2, the sequel to the strange Dungeons and Dragons type game of 2015, which I rated back then with a 7.6. It was a good game, but a lot of its mechanics relied on RNG just a little too much in my opinion. However, now we have a second game which pulled a Titanfall on us, because it's pretty much identical to the first game, but better in nearly every way. And of course, I'll tell you all about it. Let's dive in. Something I don't nearly do enough is explain how a game works. Now I do realize that everyone and their mother knows how a first-person shooter works, but for Hand of Fate it's not that simple to grasp. You start by choosing an adventure, a small story you will play through in about half an hour, and which by the way there are more than enough of. But before you start you have to build your deck, consisting of a companion which will fight alongside you in combat and provide special attacks when requested. You need some encounters, which will later be mixed with encounters from the dealer himself, equipment, which you will possibly get by completing said encounters, and lastly you get to choose supplies, which are basically starting bonuses. If you have a complete deck, then the game can begin. If you're one of those people who have seen my live stream of the game, you will already know that the game's story is completely text based, which is truly about as Dungeons and Dragons-y as it can get, especially when you put up a voice that is supposedly in character. It gives the final command: "In the name of the House of the Emperor, prepare to withdraw. Block the gatehouses, let no one through. At sunrise, burn the city to the ground." But doing such ridiculous voices does make the experience all the more fun and enjoyable. During another recording session I skipped all the context to the story, I didn't even read anything, and was not nearly as entertained as when I read everything aloud with exaggerated accents. Now, when your deck is made, your adventure is chosen, and your throat is prepared to do all the voices you need, you will actually start the game. You will move from card to card to the other side of the map, all while being challenged by the encounters you and the dealer chose. These can be combat encounters, where you have to kill all opponents in Batman Arkham style combat, countering, rolling and slaying all the enemies, using your newly found equipment to win the battle. Or it could be completely different. Some encounters ask you to roll 3 dice above a specific number in order to win. Other encounters ask you to stop a pendulum just on the right spot to get rewards. There's also a third one, but I'll get into that at the negatives. Once you have completed all the challenges of not starving to death, moving through all the encounters, buying equipment and making your voice soar from all the accents you've tried to copy, you will have to face an end boss, which upon defeating will complete that story arc and give you more stories, more encounters, more equipment, and sometimes even a new companion. That is pretty much the gist of the game, and it's amazingly fun to do if you are even a little bit into role-playing and fantasy games. But aside from the entire game which I just explained to you, there are also some miscellaneous things that stayed amazing throughout my entire playthrough. The Game Master is perfectly voice acted and gives you additional dark backstory on what is happening, or he just makes fun of you when you fuck up.
The pendulum swings like a scythe, bearing hope or failure.
The music and ambient sounds is another thing. Although the music is not 10 out of 10, it is still very well done. However, when you're in combat, it does fade away quickly under the screams of your dying foes. And as for ambient sounds, well, let me put it like this. If you're not speaking out loud and you're just reading everything in your head, it gives a nice backdrop for you and adds to the immersion. However, if you're like me and are like this: "If thou listens, here, I will find the twin and then eat thine eyes," I think you'll hardly notice it. That's not the game's fault though, that's something I do. Also, you might have noticed, but the game is very easy to run. It is well optimized with no frame drops or hard crashes anywhere, and a GTX 630 as a minimum is about the lowest bar you can set nowadays, so no excuse not to get it. They are grateful for your protection. First off, I would like to come back to that one encounter winning mechanic that I did not like, and that is the Wheel of Fortune. The wheel requires you to stop it whenever you see fit in order to win, with the card it stops on being with what you will get or what you will lose. However, the wheel spins at different rates depending on how many cards are on it, and also slows down at different rates depending on how many cards are on it, which makes it really hard to make a calculated effort to win, and instead makes it more of an RNG fest. It is hard enough to focus on what you want, but when the stop time also varies, it makes it nearly impossible. The pendulum, for comparison, stops instantly when you choose to do so, and I think the Wheel of Fortune would be better if it did the same thing. My second point, and this is a bit of a pet peeve for me, but it is the gap in difficulty in between some of the adventures. There is no difficulty slider in the options, so everything should be on the same level, right? However, some adventures, like the one called Strength, start you off with nearly no health, and to top that off, it forbids regular healing, which is not only ultra punishing, but also near impossible, seeing that almost all the encounters the dealer chose are combat ones. Whereas other stories may be way easier due to the lack of those punishing settings. But again, this is just my opinion, maybe I just need to get good, who knows. But in the meantime, I'm just going to put it here in the negatives. Before I bought this game, I was actually hesitant that this would be a game that I would only play to review. But when I drove home from work yesterday, my head was telling itself, when we get home boy, we're gonna play some Hand of Fate too. I wanted to play this game instead of needing to play it, which is already the sign of an amazing game. Oh, and also, I just found out that this game is also on PS4 and Xbox One, so that makes it even easier for me to tell you that you need to buy this game. The gameplay is more balanced than in its predecessor, the stories crafted here are plentiful and interesting, and the game is just plain fun. This is a true sequel in the fact that it is like the first one, but better in nearly every way. So for the people who haven't caught on yet, Hand of Fate 2 is worth the money.